Hello, my name is Emily Church, and I would like to welcome you and thank you for listening to my presentation today. We'll be talking about how we can use library programs to help teenagers with special needs become more inclusive members of the community. I have my Bachelor of Arts degree in Special Education and Speech-Language Communications, and have spent the last 5 years working with the special needs community of all ages, from toddlers to adults and everyone in between. This is a subject that is very important to me and near and dear to my heart, and I can't wait to share my passion with all of you. What is inclusion and why is it important? Inclusion makes sure that all people, children, teenagers, or adults, feel a part of the community regardless of their disability or special need. It began as a part of the school system to allow children with special needs into the classroom with their typically developing peers, but has since expanded to cover all individuals with disabilities. Inclusion is important because of the social interaction that comes along with it. When someone with a disability feels included and like they're part of their community, they feel more confident with themselves, don't feel as isolated from their peers, and thus are more likely to become successful in their own way. Keeping individuals with disabilities away from individuals with normal abilities actually does more harm than good. So part of the theory of inclusion is universal design for learning, which is part of the Higher Education Opportunity Act of 2008. UDL provides flexibility to children and teens who may not fit under the definition of a quote-unquote average learner, rather than a one-size-fits-all curriculum that is so common in schools. So if we look to the chart to the right, we see that universal design for learning is made up of 3 principles: representation, or the what of learning; action and expression, or the how of learning; and engagement, the why of learning. It's important to keep all of these learning styles in mind when creating library programs for teens with disabilities, so that you make sure to make all the individuals feel included no matter how they learn or process information. Characteristics of teens with special needs. The term disability or special need can cover a multitude of health concerns or impairments, such as visual impairment, hearing impairment, speech-language impairment, emotional disturbance, cognitive development delays, autism spectrum disorder, Asperger's syndrome, pervasive development disorder, orthopedic impairment, musculoskeletal impairments, and traumatic brain injuries. The term also covers a range of intensity and conditionality, as well as multiple disabilities. There's a quote that I've always liked, though it is unclear who originally said it, that states, "If you have met one individual with autism, you have met one individual with autism." I think that this quote should be applied across the board to all disabilities and impairments, because it is important to remember that every child, no matter their disability, is unique. They may display similar symptoms, such as a teen with autism flapping, or stimming as it's called, or cognitive delays in teens with Down syndrome. But no 2 teens will act the same way and, more importantly, learn the same way. In planning your programming for teens with special needs, it's important to keep this in mind. Plan to have a variety of different modes of learning and communication to cover the uniqueness of every teen with a disability. Accommodations, modifications, and assistive technologies. According to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act of 2004, assistive technology is any item, piece of equipment, or product system, whether acquired commercially off the shelf, modified, or customized, that is used to increase, maintain, or improve the functional capabilities of a child with a disability. It's meant to level the playing field and bridge the digital divide for children and teens with disabilities. Some assistive technologies include touchscreens, large screen monitors, light boxes, specialized keyboards with braille or sticky keys, headsets, screen readers, speech-to-text converters, magnifiers, and closed captioning. iPads are especially important nowadays and can actually be outfitted and used as a communication device for nonverbal teens using an app. A very popular one that I've used a lot with my students is called Proloquo. Usually families will already have this technology with them should they use it. However, it's still smart to have it available, as well as just regular iPads or tablets. Lower tech accommodations include dry erase boards, laminated photos, felt boards, and even a sign language translator for any hearing impaired patrons. You can also modify certain things among the library, such as signs, for example. You can print signs in large print, pictures or symbols, or in braille to reach a larger audience. Programming ideas and tips. Sensory story times, where you read books that connect to the senses, but be mindful that they are not too overwhelming. Many people with special needs can become overstimulated. Sensory-friendly family film nights. Keep in mind that while some of these programs may not seem developmentally appropriate for teenagers, teens with special needs are not always up to the same physical and cognitive milestones that their peers are. Art programs such as paint nights are a great way to get families involved in a calm way. Therapy dog programs. Try to contact your local therapy dog organization to inquire if you can get a few dogs to come in for an hour. Schneider Family Book Award Book Club. Most Schneider books include strong characters with disabilities, which can help boost the self-confidence of teens with special needs. Having a book club that focuses on these books is a great way to discuss the traits of these strong characters and help teens relate. Lastly, a peer buddy program, connecting special needs teens with their typically developing peers for homework help or socialization is a great use of these programs. It's also important to include families, guardians, caretakers of the teen. Most of the time, these families want to be involved in everything, so make sure that they know they're included. Also, make sure that you book the event room for an extra half hour either before or after to allow families and teens to socialize with each other and create a community amongst themselves. Tips for success. Staff training. It's important to have some staff members, especially your children's and young adults librarians, undergo some form of training. Contact and collaborate with local resources and organizations. You could contact a local special needs community center or even get in contact with a special education teacher at the local high school. Use people-first language as a sign of respect. The correct way to address an individual with a disability is by using their gender identification first, followed by their disability. For example, instead of saying the autistic boy, you would say the boy with autism. This way, the individual knows that they're not defined or labeled by their disability or impairment. It's also important to use the correct, up-to-date language when referring to a group of differently abled people. You can use the medical terminology associated with their disability, or you can say differently abled people, or just a person with a disability. Ask for feedback. Families are always glad to give their advice, what worked, what didn't work, and how you can improve your programming. And lastly, don't sweat the little things. When working with a special needs population, it is never going to go completely smooth, no matter how many programs you run. So go with the flow, and most importantly, have fun. This is an amazing, funny, intellectual population that is a pleasure to work with and get to know. Thank you all for attending my virtual presentation on how to plan inclusive library programs for teens with special needs. I hope you have learned a little bit in our short amount of time together to be able to go out and incorporate some of these programs into your own library.